Nate McKay, I'm stuck 5 to 7 minutes.
So you get to be up here and give a speech sometime, right? You sign up for a speech, good idea to sign up for a little time ahead of time. How do you write the speech? Well, I have a little method for writing speeches which will keep you from getting stuck. Because when we start to write a speech or think about a speech, we always have a story or some lesson, something we've read, something we've seen, or something we've done that we want to talk about, but we can't get started writing the speech. And the way I do this, and the way that I recommend that other people do this, is to start off with the last line. The last line of the speech is the message that you want to give to the audience. So you take your story, whatever you've learned from it, whatever you want to say, and you distill it down to that single thought, the one that has impact, and you write it as eloquently as you can. And then when you are satisfied that that's where you are, then you go to the beginning and connect your first thought with that last thought. The beauty of this is once you've given your first thought in your opening, what you're going to talk about is naturally taking you to your last thought. You know where you're going, so it's much easier to get there. And my example for this formulation for writing speeches comes from one of the most famous speeches ever given in this country, given by Abraham Lincoln at Gettysburg. His last line is, "We must resolve to have in this country a new birth of freedom and government of, by, and for the people shall not perish from this earth." So he's talking about the country. So where does he go? He starts with the simple first line. 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. We are now engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. All three of those lines revealed very little to the audience, but they set him up. We have met here to dedicate a portion of this field as a lasting resting place that for those who died, let me get this right because it's not that easy for me, who gave their lives that this nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it far beyond our poor power to add or detract. Part one is over. Here's the transition to part two. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. And now it's in part two. It is us for the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be dedicated here to the great task remaining before us, that these honored men dead, we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. And now he gets to his end. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government by the people, of the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. How simple it is to write a great speech. You have a thought that's meaningful and inspiration that you can say in a beautiful way, and you simply start with the connection and you wind your way to the finish. This is a fine way to not only write a speech, but to accomplish practically anything in your life. Figure out where you want to end up. Take a look at where you're starting and see the method to get to the finish. Mr. Toastmaster.